what what actually happened with this is all my staff is going to a conference on Friday. And so they're going to a Women of Joy conference. And so Wanda and Kim and everybody's going to that. So, and apparently they don't think I can handle this on my own, is what the word is. So, in order for them to be able to help everything and get everything going, that's why everything had to change for Monday. So anyway, that's what's behind the scenes on this is apparently I'm incompetent without everybody. And so that's what happened. So thank you for changing this. Let me mention something off of our announcement here that you're seeing on the screen right now. I wanted to mention something about next month because it might make a difference on who comes to this. Next month, we're going to be talking about AI as your project leadership assistant. And one of the things I'm going to do in that hour is if you've never done this before, it's kind of fun. We're going to do hands-on with that webinar. And so we're going to be connecting to an AI tool such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those, Grok, any of those that you typically use. And we want you to connect to it before then and go ahead and sign up for their free version so that you're ready for the next one. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some project components and we're going to show you the prompting. We're going to show you also how some of these tools can help you. You're not going to use anything that is proprietary for your company. You're going to use some of the stuff that we give you, but it'll be kind of fun for you. If you've not done this and not seen how AI can really help you in the area of project management, it'll be really fun for you. For those of you who've taken some of the other courses where we've actually done that, or taken the AI course where we actually do that AI in project management, then it's going to be similar to that for you. But those of you who have people who have not taken any of this, have them in that webinar next week. We'll expose you and just kind of wet the whistle on some of the stuff that AI is doing. And so but go ahead and sign up for either ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, whatever it is that you typically would be using, go ahead and sign up for it, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get our slides up here so that we can get going with what we're going to talk about today. And so today we are going to be moving into, let me get this going here. This is not what it should be. And trying to talk to you about the other thing, it kind of messes me up on everything with that for today, but that's all right. I want you to see that. All right, so let's get our other slides up. Here we go. It takes me just a second here. I apologize because I'm making the switch for you. All right, so today, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is strategic visionary. We're going to be talking about strategic visionaries. Well, I'm sorry. Trying to get everything to where I can see it. Here we go. Let's try this. Let's see if that's going to work for us. Okay, and let me get our slide up here where you can see it now. I think it's going to. So what we're going to be doing today is called Strategic Visionaries, Guiding Portfolios Toward Value Creation. And so what we're looking at with this today is we're going to be looking at it from the aspect of, from the portfolio view is what we're going to be doing. And so we really want you to be able to think about it. It's not just a project view. It's going to be coming from that portfolio view on purpose today. And the reason is because so many different things are changing from that portfolio view. And so as we look at this, one of the things that I'm wanting you to see is that so many pressures are coming from the portfolio view right now. And so strategic visionaries guiding portfolios toward future value creation. All of PMI, all of your PMBOK 7, and now in PMBOK 8 as it has rolled out, is driving more and more of, are we getting value from our projects, but also from our programs and our portfolios? And so with each of these, what's happening is it's changing the dynamic of how we're looking at spending our money on some of these projects. And since it's changing that to such a point, it's causing us to look at it from an aspect of some of our money is not bringing back the value we thought it was going to be bringing back. So it has changed how we look at spending money on the project. So this morning I wanted to go into this. Now, every graphic that I've got on here, just for full disclosure, I've used every graphic here was created by ChatGPT. And so I wanted you to know that up front to kind of see some of the brilliance of what some of the AI tools will do in helping some of this. So if we start with the portfolio here and you start looking at this, you'll notice that those of you, especially in portfolio management, you know that portfolio is your big pot of money that connects to your strategic plan. And so what you do is you fund the portfolio portfolio based on the strategic plan, and it funds everything and trickles down to your projects. And so when you see this, this is a good overview for you. The portfolio is funding your divisions, your agency, your business units, your departments, your new business initiatives, all of those type of things. So I can control anything that's happening with that organization by where I put my money in that portfolio. And that's one of the things that we have to understand, is that where we put our money is what's going to happen in that organization and for the future of that organization. So if I put my money in places that doesn't make any sense, then that's going to be something that's going to be very, very harmful to the organization overall. And so when you're starting off, you're looking at the strategic plan into the portfolios. And of course, you're funding projects and programs across the board. And that's not an easy initiative. Those of you who are in portfolio management or CFOs, you have a lot of pressure on you because you're trying to make a good decision with where you spend your money. And it's going to make a difference on what you're driving as a strategic plan. So it's really, really an important piece for you to be doing here. All right, so here's the first piece I wanted to start with. And if you've ever heard this is not a criticism, but it just shows us where we really are. We have a maintenance mindset so many times. And so that maintenance mindset causes us to do what we did before. I can't tell you how many times and how many projects we say, well, what did we do in the last time when we ran that project? And we do something very similar. Some of that is based on experience, which is fine. So what did we do last year? Well, let's do that again because it worked pretty good. And that term pretty good just drives me nuts. And you think of how many meetings we've said, well, it worked pretty good. And so next time you hear that, it's going to be something stupid, I'm sure, that you're going to laugh about. But I wanted you to see that because pretty good is really the nail in the casket that keeps us from going to something that's great. And so many times that pretty good sabotages everything else that we're trying desperately to do in that area of greatness. And we're in that spot, I think, right now. And many of you maybe don't agree, but we'll talk about it just a little bit more here. So let's start off with the strategic role of portfolio leadership. You set the tone. If you're in portfolio leadership, you set the tone for where that organization's going. Not just the project, not just the program, but the organization. You're setting the tone probably in that C-suite where you're coming up with the strategic plans. And so portfolios are instruments of strategy execution. Where we are now compared to where we want that organization to be, the portfolio drives that. If I can kill the money and take the money and put it someplace else, it's going to drive that strategy. So a well-designed portfolio is going to allocate for scarce resources because we don't have endless money, reflects strategic priorities, balances risk and opportunity, shapes future organizational capabilities. Strategy without portfolio discipline becomes aspiration. And so many times what we do is we have all these goals and aspirations, but if we don't put money to it, nothing's happening. And some of those things shouldn't have money to it. It is an aspiration. We haven't researched it. We haven't done enough analysis for it. And so it's going to make that difference there. Now, distinguishing project programs and portfolios in value creation and logic. As I said before, PMI has really emphasized from PMBOK 7 and PMBOK 8 this emphasis of value. Even the PMP certification has changed towards emphasizing value in the project as well, more so than it ever has before. But when we look at these, when we go to the level of project, which is the frontline group of work that we do typically, you're looking at the focus is basically on scope, schedule, and budget, defining the objectives, meeting the objectives from a project standpoint. So the projects create value indirectly by producing assets, systems, changes. And so we run changes in our organization by running projects. And so we're able to do that in many of those areas. However, that value is there, but that value feeds into the program value, and it also feeds into the strategic value or the portfolio value, which is driving those strategic initiatives. So that's what we're looking at, is what value do each of these levels bring? Then when we talk about the program value, we know it's a group of related projects that's working together. But you're looking at interdependencies, benefit realization, organizational change. And you'll notice that flavor keeps coming up of organizational change. As I said in earlier webinars this year, many organizations are running change in their organization by running all the various projects. And so they're using projects because they can get their arms around whatever that specific change is, either in the process or the system. And once it's finished, they've finished a part of the overarching change for the organization overall. And so that's a little bit of a different mindset in the culture than what we've typically had. So programs create value by ensuring a certain output, whether it's a project output of a change process, or a project output of new software, or a project output of new AI tools that we're putting into place, which many of you are doing right now as well. And then, of course, you get to the portfolio level, and that makes sure it's delivering that strategic value. And that strategic value could be investment selection, prioritization, resource allocation, risk balancing, because we did these projects and programs to bring down some of the risks that we have in the future. And so when you look at portfolio creating value by deciding what to invest in, what not to invest in, when to reallocate, how to balance the horizons, this is a huge hurdle for many of your portfolio managers to jump over, because you're trying to anticipate something that you don't know for sure. And everything about a portfolio and everything about money, we want a sure thing. Even in our investments, we want a sure thing, don't we? But the point is, this is what this is. Where are we going to invest our money as an organization? Where are we going to spend our money to get more value, to get more customers, to get more revenue, to corner the market on being an organization that's offering this particular product? All of those are parts of this component. All right, so let's look at strategic alignment versus operational optimization. The portfolio can drive both of these, but the operational optimization still has some of that mainline management, that management, the way we've done it before kind of feel. Not that there's not times that we have to do that, but it does still have some of that feel sometimes. So I want you to see something here. We're just looking at the top half of this because I saw this and I thought this would really show you what we're talking about here a little bit. And so technology impact or visualization, timeline plus flow. So just the top half is what we need. So beginning point today, current business, processes, systems. So let's start off today. Portfolio managers are looking at where they are now, but notice what they're doing with so much of this. They're forecasting where they want to be. And nothing is driving that more right now than typically for most organizations is going to be the AI revolution that we're seeing all around us. And so people are starting where they are right now, and they're looking to see, will AI help our organization in any way? Will it help us be more efficient? Will it help us be able to hit more target dates out here? Will it help us to be able to come up with new products and services that's going to be better off for our customers? So if you look at the beginning point right there at now, let me see if you can see this. Yeah, you can see my pointer. And so if you look at that, and then you go through cost to create, to build, to engineer, to integrate. And of course, all of that is going to be some of that installation with your AI project. And then out here to the future, this is going to be your future technology. And so in 2030, and you think, wait a second, it's 2026 right now. And you're absolutely right. And so AI-powered autonomous operations platform. So what can we put into place that's going to allow us to be able to get some value out of this new technology? Even though that technology is evolving, and even though we don't know everything about it, where is it that we can balance both the risk of the new technology and the components of that new technology to get some value out of it? And so when I saw this last week when I was working on this, I thought that is so good, because that's really showing from now until the future. And so the 2030 is not unrealistic. For a matter of fact, most companies that are looking at something with AI, they're looking at somewhere around 28 to 30, 2028 to 2030, so that when they can have some of these tools in place and get some of the value off of this. So it's just kind of fascinating as you go out and you look at some of these. Now, from operational optimization, nothing wrong with this. You might be using technology to be able to help in these areas. Doing things efficiently. Can we run things and be better efficient with what we're doing? Absolutely. That can be great value. So cost efficiency, utilization rates, schedule adherence, short-term performance metrics. Typical questions you're asking here are going to be, are we on time? Are we under budget? Are the resources fully utilized? And so it has some of the exact same feel that we have with projects, because you're constantly weighing all of those. Am I using my people the right way? Am I using the resources the right way? And this plagues your portfolio managers all the time. They're constantly looking at that because they don't want to waste their money. All right, so how much value? So this graphic made by Chat GPT as well. So you've got your project, so you've got revenue generation, you've got strategic alignment, and then of course it's going to feed into operational efficiency. Revenue generation is one of those big question marks that we have on the portfolio side because you're trying to come up with new customers, you're trying to come up with new products, you're trying to do business differently, you're trying to be able to jump the organization not just a year or two, but 5 to 7 years or 10 years maybe with the new technology. And you're trying to be on the cutting edge to where you then become the powerhouse that customers are coming to. All of that is being looked at. Of course, we're going to run projects and programs to be able to fulfill those projects and make that shift with that company. And so this is a huge place for us to be today. So future-oriented leadership mindset, moving beyond reactive portfolio governance. So in other words, this has happened, and so let's make sure it doesn't happen next year. That's reactive. You're looking at leadership behaviors that enable adaptability, resilience. How can we be different and do business different tomorrow? How can our products be different tomorrow than they are right now? Many of the things that we do that if we're not careful, when in 3 to 5 years, we could be almost out of business because nobody needs that product. No, it's not on the cutting edge. We haven't kept up. We've had such a maintenance mindset of just hold on and just hope for the best. All this will leave that we're going to be left behind in so many places. And you're going to see that especially with technology happening around us. Okay, so value creation as a multidimensional construct. So you have financial, strategic, societal, capability-based value. You have temporal tensions in value realization. So how long is it going to take before we get money back? So we're investing a lot of money. AI is happening like crazy. You're seeing on the news every time you turn around the billions and billions that people are putting into this. They're not putting that in by accident. They're putting it in because they're expecting the value to come to them down the road. Either their company is still in business because other companies are not investing in AI technology, or many of these companies are going to hold on so tight that they're going to be so outdated that nobody's going to use them. So let me just give you a real silly example of that. So would you really hire a vendor if they don't have a website and an email address? Well, of course not. I mean, that's typical business 101 today, isn't it? However, there was a time where business were fighting over the idea of whether they needed a website. Well, I got a good brochure. Well, that's great, Bubba, but guess what? We're not a brochure world right now. Our marketing typically doesn't go out in direct mail anymore. Everything has gone to the technology side. And so most of our marketing today is technology. We do it through all the social media. We do it through online things. And so we don't do it like we did even just 7 years ago. It's so different. And so the thing is, you're wanting to stay up on all of this. The strategic foresight in portfolio decision making. So foundations of strategic foresight. Environmental scanning, weak signals, trend analysis, foresight. You're trying to project, but there's no guarantee. And that's what we don't like doing. You're trying to project what the future will. Scenario planning, uncertainty mapping. What's going to happen because of this technology? And so what happens is you're looking at a paradigm shift, but what you're trying to do is to come up with those ideas really, really clearly on where and what the future is going to be, what even some of it is. And so a lot of times we want 100% batting range on this. We want to be able to hit home runs all the time, and yet we know that's not possible. But you're trying to give some foresight on what you think is going to happen in your industry, with your company, with your portfolio that's going to drive all of these future pieces. All right, so then translating that foresight into portfolio strategy, that's what we're trying to do. This is something we think will benefit us. This is something we think is going to happen. So you're linking those macro trends into investment themes. Where do we want to invest the money? And anticipatory governance, adaptive prioritization. And so you're looking at, here's the stuff we do to keep the doors open, but here are the things that we're going to do to be able to get out here and ahead of the game on some of these things. And what's happening is many people are doing, here's what we're doing to keep the doors open, but they're not doing, what are we doing to keep to be able to get out ahead of some of these things. And so because we're wanting it to be so perfect, and it's not going to be perfect in every situation. So a lot of this goes into the risk. How much risk can we handle? We're not going to put your whole portfolio out here for foresight, and those type of projects and portfolios because of risk and uncertainty. And so differentiating risk management from uncertainty management and designing portfolios for robust optionality. And so what you're looking for is, do we have options along the way? Can we get off and do something a little different if we see that the macro environment changes around us? And that's one of the things I think that's so important here is this is not we're going to be here in 5 years and it's just the plan that we run and we don't look at anything else. You are hitting a moving target, and that target is moving out here in several different directions, and your portfolio management is going to have a component of that, and in order to be able to bring value in years to come. And so that's one of the pieces we're having to look at. All right, emerging technologies and portfolio agility. This is why I talk about AIs, because that's probably one of the most emerging technologies that we're facing right now anyway. So technology as a strategic enabler, digital transformation, AI, automation impacts, technology-driven disruption of portfolio assumptions, all of that is happening to us right now. And so your organization, maybe it's different, but I bet you there's some component that the technology is changing so fast that you're having to anticipate something different than how you do business right now. If not, then in a few years, your business will be struggling to play catch up on some of these things. And so that's why what we're talking about is this technology going to disrupt business. And so when you start looking at it, is it disrupting content? And that's why we're talking next month, about how to use AI as an assistant to where it's helping us rather than it's this arch enemy that we don't want to have involved. You don't want to do that, just like it's technology. And so that technology is not a person, it's a thing. But we can use it in a good way or we can use it in a bad way. You're wanting to be able, how can I use this to assist me as a great project manager, program manager, portfolio manager, or any of those? Integrating technology and technological uncertainty into planning. So managing technological maturity, adoption curves, capability building versus intermediate returns. One of the challenges I think our portfolio friends have in portfolio management is this idea of we want value and payback so quick on so many things. We want to be able to invest $1 million and be able to give $1 million plus back within just a few months here. And that's not really realistic. Some of these things are going to be years down the road before you get anything back. You're not going to get something back by the time the project finishes. The project's just the beginning part to get everything in place. But you'll have value coming in over time. But the point is that value, the ultimate return on investment might not take place for several years. And so we're having to go back to looking and thinking long term and longer term maybe than what we ever have, or longer term even than 5 years might be in some of these cases. The other part of this is the agility at the portfolio level. We typically have talked about it from a program and a project level, but you're talking about adaptive governance structures. Now, here's what happens. We put all these governance structures in place, and we need them in place. Don't mistake what I'm saying. We need them in place, but now we've got so much change happening in that culture and environment of our organization and in our products that some of that governance is having to adjust. For an example, we're having to many of you are writing new governance on AI right now. And I get it, because what can we do? What will we do with AI? What will we not do? What is allowed? What's not allowed? Some people treat AI as, we don't even mention the name. You can't say AI at our company. And so, you can get to that point, or it's the thought that we can just dump everything in, and you can't do that either, because once again, you don't have it covered. You don't have the security pieces in place. So there's got to be some kind of happy medium to where we can use the tools, but also protect our data and protect our people. And then that dynamic resource allocation, reprioritization, and mechanisms. Those are challenging for so many of these things. How are we going to do that? Because once again, you're hitting that moving target. So the decisions you made this week were not wrong, but they're not right for next week because things have adjusted a little bit. And that's what's the challenge is for some of this. So let's talk about short-term and long-term return on investment of value. We want short-term, but the challenge we get into is that some of these are going to be longer-term. Short-term are going to be some things. We create a product, we put a new piece of technology in, a lot of times you have short-term return on investment. It's very efficient. It works well. It saves us time. Took 3 steps out of the process. You guys get it, I know. And so we have that short-term return on investment. But when we flip it over and we start looking over here at this idea of long-term value, sometimes that's where it gets a little bit more gray, because we're wanting that long-term value to really be something substantial, and it might not be, or it might take so long to get all of that back. And so that really is a challenge in trying to convince management what we need to do, what those next steps are going to be. And because it's so gray, such a gray area, you're going to see a lot of upper leadership be changing because they made the wrong call. They chose not to invest in technology, or they invested in the wrong technology. And so you're going to see big mistakes along with big payoffs. And of course, the payoffs will look like they are just these brilliant gurus that are out here in AI. And then the people who messed up will be the people who were trying to play maybe a little more conservative. And there's reason for both of these in what we're looking at. Now, let's look at temporal trade-offs in investment decisions. Short-term performance pressures versus strategic sustainability. We might be feeling the pressure to do something very quickly, very fast with AI, but once again, it might be very short-term, and it might bring some value temporarily. And then when you start looking at risk in portfolio section, this my poppy deals from that short-term mindset. And so what it is, it's I want short-term performance. That's what I'm leaning toward rather than long-term. And here's the thing, we do want short-term performance. We want to be able to show that we're making progress. We're getting some of the money back. We got some of the efficiencies. We're doing things faster. I mean, all of those types of things are value. But the problem is sometimes we lean so much on the short term, and even our mindset, if it's not happening in 18 months, we're not going to do it. And that might be right for your organization and your agency. Explaining the definition of value. We think money, and that's it, but speed. So strategic positioning, your learning and capability development, intangible, delayed value streams. So it can be a lot of different things. It can be money, it can be value, it can be speed, it can be, in other words, what is your position in the marketplace? Does this allow you to be able to be the number one position, or number one through 10 positions, and you're not now? That might be something that makes the difference there. Decision frameworks for balanced portfolios, portfolio diversification logic. So how many of these new technologies are we willing to invest in? Nobody's going to be able to know that other than you and your upper leadership, because how much risk can you take on? You might not be able to take on but one. Somebody else might be able to take on 5. Innovation horizons, investment segmentation. You're looking to see, okay, this really fits what we're doing here. These kind of tools are really making predictions and are really going to assist us here. Many people are taking that generative AI and taking that predictive mode of many of these tools, and they are using it as a way of being able to project it out. And it's really turning into be something pretty fascinating. But that might not fit your industry, and it might not fit your organization. Just because it's working over here for something doesn't necessarily mean that same thing is going to work for you with some of your stuff as efficient as it is for that. Now let's talk about designing innovation and driven portfolios. So incremental versus transformational. We have all used incremental kind of initiatives in everything we're doing. Incremental initiatives are going to be lower impact. It might be a project that changes the process or brings in a piece of technology that allows us to be more efficient and take some of the steps out of the process. We've done a lot of those. Transformational means that tomorrow or in 2030, we're doing business differently. So if you believe you're doing business differently, you're having to envision what that transformational look is going to look like, because you're having to look at it, and then you're looking at all the things that you're going to need to support the transformational impact. And it starts with the upper leadership. What is your vision? What's your dream? I watched remember the old movie Oh, I just went blank. So I can't think of the name of the movie now. But in one of the old movies, one of the things I thought was fascinating. Oh, Pretty Woman. I found it now. So my brain cells are out of order. So in Pretty Woman, you remember in the movie you hear in the background, "What's your dream? What's your dream?" I love that statement, because that dream of the company and the dream of upper management is going to make the difference on where you're going to put your money in all of these things. All right, an innovation as a portfolio strategy. So if you decide we want to be an innovative company, and so an example of this would be Apple. Apple is known as for their innovation. They're always coming out with some new product, even though some of them don't work, or some of them are not bought by people because of what happened. So it's not 100%, batting average even for Apple, even though a phenomenal company that has phenomenal technology. When you start looking at they've had some technology that people did not like, people did not buy as you start looking through their history. But they're known as an innovative company. They're known as a great company, and people love the idea of Apple. So incremental versus transformational initiative, innovation, ecosystems, portfolio integration. How are we putting all of the culture, all of the things, all of our money, all of our resources to support those future visions? That's what you're looking at. And so you're starting to see companies really start looking for innovative leadership because it's going to start at the top in so many of these. Also, when you're looking at structural tensions in innovation portfolios, so you've got exploration versus exploitation dynamics. You've got governance challenges and performance measurements. What we measure for performance and what we have right now, these challenges might not even be close to the challenges we have in the future because the technology could be doing so many things so much faster. And so when you see the new technology come in, it hurts some areas because the way you've done business, but it will typically open up other areas. If you've ever watched the movie Hidden Figures, think about the IBM when in the movie they bring in the first IBM big old monster computer, and of course it's making calculations of 24,000. I watched it the other night right before the liftoff of the Artemis, and so I love it, and I've done training at the Redstone facility, and so I love it. I love the idea. I love the history. But when they brought the IBM in, the idea was, and in the movie, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The idea was it's going to get rid of some of your calculating people, your computer people. And so but what was cool was the one segment where the lady said, "This will work. It will be the future, and if we are not on board with it, we're gonna miss out." And I love that statement she has, and so she trains her people on IBM. So here's the thing: if you look at this and at technology that same way today, it is going to be here. People are going to make it work in so many ways. And so we either learn it or we're going to be left out. That same mindset has to be there. And so computers today are a part of everything we do. But in that particular time, they had physically had per individual calculators, people who calculated everything for that last moonshot was for people who were actually doing it manually. And so today we're using computers to do it all. All right, next, let's look at building adaptive capacity. Organizational learning, feedback loops, portfolio experimentation, iterative evaluation. So we're getting ready to shoot for trying to differentiate our organization than what it has been in the past from a lot of different aspects: efficiencies, products, resources. So the resources you have right now might not be, talking about people, might not be the people you need in the future. So have you already thought and started looking at the possibility of picking up an AI, a person in charge of AI? A person who's going to be a director of AI, or a person who data scientists or data engineers, or any of these people, because those are some of the new roles that are going to be happening with some of the companies that are going to be there. What kind of consultant are you hiring to bring in to help you install your AI tools and those type of things? Are they familiar with your industry? Are they familiar with those type of things? These are questions that we've never had to ask before because we've never had AI working in our organization. So those are going to be pushing the envelope on some of these things. So let's talk about leadership influence and stakeholder alignment. So leading under uncertainty. Now, typically we connect uncertainty with risk, and it is. But sense making, strategic communication, does some of the uncertainty that we have, can we mitigate it with better people, such as a data scientist, a chief artificial intelligence officer? Can we do it with new roles that are there? And then also framing future-oriented narratives. In other words, do we anticipate where this is going to help us? Is it going to help us in a project? The answer is going to be yes. You're going to see AI in your project. And next month, when we do this, you'll see how this can help us as an assistant. Still human involved, so it's not full automation. Don't mistake what I'm saying. But you're using it as another person to give you some other ideas that you did not have. Stakeholder resistance, cognitive bias. Some people are very resistant to AI. They're scared that it's going to take their job. And truth is, it could. It could have some of that in some cases. But what can it do to your present job in changing some things there? And then risk aversion, status quo bias, that mindset. Let's just leave it the way it is. We've been doing pretty good. Oh my gosh. And then strategies for alignment and engagement. Can we be different tomorrow that's going to put us in even better alignment with where our organization's wanting to go and cause us to be more engaged? It's an exciting time if we can look at it through that. But it's not a time that doesn't have uncertainty. Of course it does. We don't know what's going to happen with all of this. The other piece, leading under uncertainty, institutionalizing future focused decision cultures, governance mechanisms that support long term thinking, embedding foresight into routine portfolio practices. So can we look differently? Can we envision something that's going to be a little bit different in the future? Is it going to be different culture? The answer to all of that is probably it will. Your culture today is probably going to have to shift to accommodate some of this. And some of the people that you're bringing on are going to have to shift as well. You're going to be bringing on people who have different skill sets. And some of the skill sets you might have right now might not be as in need. You might still need some, but maybe it's out of balance right now with some of these. And so, could it change? Of course, it could. We've seen that happen per generation. This just happens to be the current technology that's doing it right now. So, your baby boomers dealt with it when they started bringing computers into the workplace. They were doing everything manually, and so they were seeing technology come in like that, which changed the whole dynamic of what they were doing. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges in portfolios and value creation. So, when we start looking at this, emerging technologies and portfolio agility, portfolios typically don't have the freedom and flexibility to adjust as fast as sometimes the environment might need. And so, that is a huge challenge. So, examining AI initiatives. So, several questions here just to consider. What will it be the cost? And that's a huge one because we don't really know. We don't have a good history of past AI projects to pull from. And so we're having to anticipate that our calculations are right for the cost, but you and I both know that there's something we did not include in that cost. What will be the value in worker reduction? In other words, will we be able to get some return on investment because I only need 10 workers rather than the 30 that I have right now? And of course, people don't want to talk about that, but of course it could be something like that. When will AI begin paying for itself? We're wanting something to start paying for itself in 6 months, but it might be 5 or 6 years before you start getting your money back. What is the value to the organization of using AI? Just because we can say we're using AI, or is it going to be because it's going to make us innovative in a lot of other places? And what will be the cost to implement? And the one piece that we have to think about too with AI that's different than any other technology product, I'm not just putting a piece of software in play here. I'm putting something and being able to leave it alone. I'm putting something in that every so often, because of model drift and data drift, we are going to have to retrain that document, that piece of technology. And so in order for it to be working at efficiency, so it's not a one time and done, it's going to be a one time to get it in. And then periodically, due to monitoring it, we're going to have to retrain it to get it to keep that efficiency because once again, we're doing business differently. So it's going to be something like that is that we're having to think about. So what is value creation? From a strategic point, how well a project or program aligns with and advances strategic goals. Financial value, return on investment, revenue generation, payback periods. If you look at customer stakeholder value, improvements in customer satisfaction, market share, user experiences, meeting stakeholder needs, all of these are things that we say we care about, but so many times, once again, the strategic values take a more dominant effect than maybe the customer value or the financial value. So we have that strategic piece, and rightly so, it all trickles down, but there should be alignment rather than resistance or a battleground between some of these. The other piece would be operational value. Efficiencies, process improvements, risk reduction, compliance, capability building. So can we do business differently than we've ever done it before? Social reputation value, brand equity, regulatory goodwill, sustainability outcomes, corporate social responsibilities. All of these make a difference. I laughed yesterday. I had someone come out to my house. Many of you know I live out in the country on 8 acres, and so we've had some trees that we've dropped over the last couple of years. So I've got some stumps. Okay. And so I ran across, my neighbor had somebody grinding his stumps. Okay. So it's young guy, got a stump grinder. And so those of you who don't know what this is, it's a machine that grinds the stump down into the dirt so you can cover it up with dirt and then plant grass on it. Okay. So anyway, I called the guy, he comes out, young guy, stump grinder, just a good guy. So I have 5 trees. So he grinds my stumps. So I said, how do I said, do you need cash, check? What do you need? He said, I can take credit card. I can do it all. So I handed my credit card and he scans it on his phone and takes the payment. And I start laughing because I'm thinking, even the stump guy is using technology right. And so he charged my credit card. He emailed me the receipt. And you're talking about, the stump guy, Bubba, he's got his hat on and good guy, hardworking guy, but he's using technology for his range of what he needs to use it for. So they could pay him on his phone for that service. And I just thought, you're trying to be innovative, and that's exactly what he needed to be. All right, so let's talk about challenges in portfolio and value creation. So what are some of the challenges? First is going to be structural and governance challenges. The strategic level or the portfolio level in upper management, sometimes this changes the slowest. And that's how it's so easy to get misaligned. We're doing things down below. They're very creative, but we're kind of misaligned with some things. So misalignment between the strategy and the portfolio composition, where we're wanting to spend our money. We might be more visionary than we are being able to back it up with money. Maybe so. That could happen. A fragmented decision authority, competing priorities. This is important. This is number one priority, but this is number one priority. How many times have we all heard that? And so, of course, we see that a lot of times. And then measurement and evaluation difficulties, limitations of traditional return on investment metrics, and then challenges in assessing intangible and long-term value. So we're so used to measuring it based on time and budget, then what happens is what do we do when we're not getting an investment back for 18 months or 3 years? What are we doing when we are looking at value only from a dollar amount, and we're not looking at value from a speed amount or from a delivery amount or for a new product development amount? All of those would be some of the metrics that we might find ourselves having to develop in the future. The other piece would be the uncertainty part, complexity, change dynamics, rapid environmental shifts, assumption instability, overcommitment, escalation of commitment risk. We have to be able to balance it to where you can't just throw all your money at an AI and new tools, because that's not going to make sense. But you are looking at what can we invest in AI that's going to be able that we can implement in as much of an environment of safety as possible to be able to see how much of this is going to be able to help us. And so that's only the decisions that upper management's going to be able to feel comfortable with, and then be able to pick what they're going to do and pass it down to a project level. And so that's going to be the discussions. And that's the discussions that are happening right now. Waiting is typically not the thing. If we wait, we're going to find ourselves behind on almost everything, the way everything is evolving. So we've got to be able to research, obviously, and make good decisions. But waiting, we'll wait and see what happens in 3 years. In 3 years, you might already be on the outskirts of being able to maintain what you're trying to maintain because of the lack of technology that you could have anticipated and maybe got it in earlier. So that's one of the things that we have to be able to look at. The other would be innovation and risk paradoxes, balancing experimentation with accountability. So how much am I willing to lose? How much am I willing to lose? That is something I ask Wanda every year when I try something new or write a new program. How much can I lose? And whatever that amount is, then I'm testing a new program. I'm testing something new, because the truth is I could lose 100% of it. The truth in this is that you could lose 100% of this. And that's what a portfolio manager does not want to hear and have to face. But you and I both know that's possible. We could pick the wrong technology. We could locate it in our organization behind the firewall, but use it in the wrong section. We could pick the wrong vendor. We could do all of those things and it'd be a colossal screw up. I mean, and that's what you're not wanting to have happen. So where is it that I can use this and lose the least amount of money possible? Leadership and cultural barrier, short-termism, cognitive bias, organizational inertia, building cultures that sustain strategic patience. So leadership is going to be huge. And this is the reason why when you start seeing people who have some leadership success, you'll see them start changing to other companies and other jobs. And that's because companies will throw more money at somebody who's had some success in AI. And you see that with your vendors as well. And so a lot of times you'll start seeing people who they've been there for a couple of years, they instituted an AI tool, and so now they're being pulled someplace else. You're actually seeing that happen with all of your AI companies right now. ChatGPT is pulling people from Google. Google's pulling people from Meta. And so you're seeing them bounce around. It's because they've had some success in some of those places. Now, challenges of for the portfolio world. There are challenges, and these men and women who run these portfolios are good people, but they are risk mitigators. They look at everything through the eyes of a risk. So projects selected based on urgency or influence, we have those. So let's look at this for a moment. So projects based on urgency. So you've got urgency. The fire is burning right now, most urgent. Tomorrow morning when you go to, tomorrow or today when you came into work, you maybe had some of these where what you thought you were going to do today, you didn't do. You put out fires all day long. And then you've got some projects that are a little bit further down. You might be working on them, doing things, but of course, it's going to influence the company. It's going to influence the culture. But you know that those projects and programs are going to be very influential as you get them connected. That's going to be your AI world with some of this. But that still did not keep you from making sure the network was up and running this morning, making sure that everybody's emails were coming to them, making sure the lights were on. And so we all live with both of these paradoxes or both of these circumstances in our life. So projects selected based on urgency. So how do you fix it? Create and establish strategic objectives that select projects which drive strategic goals. Where is your organization going to be in 3 years? Where is it going to be in the area of technology? Where is it going to be in the area of workforce? Design a scoring model to evaluate projects with a strategic focus rather than urgency or influence. Urgency and influence are going to happen. The fire is going to be burning when you come in for work on certain days, and you find yourself spending that morning putting out all the fires. We get it. Everybody does. Consider giving portfolio reviews to verify alignment is happening. So when we're launching out, especially on these visionary pieces, how are we being able to what kind of metrics are we going to measure it on? Because time and money might not be enough, or it might not be right for right now. Maybe down the road is perfect, but maybe as we're getting all of this going, it's not enough because we're not getting the value out of it. We're still putting everything together. Now, down the road, that value might be return on investment, obviously, new products, obviously, speed, obviously. All of those are going to be easier to maybe measure down the road with those metrics than they are right now. Those metrics might not be the right metrics right now. Let's talk about the lack of project prioritization methods. So we do have this where we fight over resources on whose project is the better project. Project number one in January might be number 3 today. And so I get it. You do too. Those priorities change. Well, the same thing's going to happen with your AI stuff. You've got people working on AI, and then all of a sudden here comes something else, and you're trying to once again work on it. Maybe it's a less risky thing, and you've got AI going. So create methodological and quantitative ways of ranking a project's priorities. Evaluate the number of projects an organization can do with current resources, and limit the work in progress. Work in progress is one of the challenges that we all have. We've got 3 or 4 projects we're working on right now, but I've got 4 more in the pipeline that I'm having to attend meetings on. And then I've got 5 or 6 that's not happening until next year, but doggone it, we got meetings on those too. If that makes sense to anybody else, give me a thumbs up, because that's the world I hear from you guys in the meetings, is that you're doing all these meetings for the current projects, the projects in the pipeline behind them, and maybe even those behind them. So that's all obviously one of the things. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. And so categorizing the projects based on those, this is a mandatory project. It's got to be here. This is strategic and this is operational. People understand that. But even the ranking order of one project, number 1 project compared to a number 3 project, and that should make a difference on how we're bringing together all of the our resources for something like that. It would make a huge difference. But limiting the work in progress is huge, because we can suck down somebody's time and it actually kill all their productivity because they're attending all these meetings at all these different levels all the time. Over allocation of resources. Our people are swamped. Many of your people are too. When ChatGPT created this picture for me, I started laughing, because don't we feel this way sometimes? Oh my gosh, if I hear the word project one more time, I'm going to choke somebody. I mean, you are just, So that's why when I saw this, I thought this is perfect, because you have so much stuff demanding your time, and you've got a deadline on everything. And so it's huge. So constraints of resources, over allocation. So how do you fix something like that? You have to balance the number of projects with those internal resources that you have. And nobody's going to be able to work 10-hour days every day. That's just not how people are going to be able to do it. So capacity planning, realistic resource assignments. how many projects can we realistically do with the 22 people that we have working for us or with the 200 people that we have working for us? Create and maintain a centralized resource pool. It shows the expertise of each member. Now, here's the thing about a resource pool. It needs to be updated because your people are gaining skills along the way. So the skills they had last January, by this January, they should have some other skills. You're wanting to be able to know what they're learning. What training did they go to? Did they pick up new certifications? Any of those. And then establish a correct prioritization process that allows lower priority projects to wait. Sometimes because people are screaming about their project, it is number one to them. I get it. But if it's not regulatory or it's not something that we're having to have instantly, it does need to be pushed off to be able to maintain the capacity that our people have. And the reason is because if I burn my people out with having them do too many projects and working all these hours and they're just stressed, you're going to lose that person. That resource is then going to be gone and you're trying to recruit somebody to be in their place. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge there. Let's talk about overlooking portfolio level risks. So inadequate portfolio risk management. How do you fix something like this? You analyze the risk associated with portfolio expenditures and the level of funding for the projects. You create scenario analysis to deepen the contingency and mitigation plans, and then you lower the overall risk with the selection of contract types and strong contingency plans. Now, contract types have always been used as a way of being able to shift some of the risk, especially if you're using a fixed price contract. You are going to be able to shift some risk over to the vendor. But what you're looking at here is you're just looking at it from all aspects of how can I reduce the risk as much as possible. And we do this by what type of vendor we hire. We do it by the contracts. We do it in a lot of those types of things. And so I'm not saying anybody's not doing some of these already, but we're just having to be a little more focused on how we're going to be able to do it and when that project is going to be able to start in so many of our situations. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that we don't have too much risk that's going to burn our people out and harm other projects that are maybe not tapping into technology such as AI. Limited visibility and transparency of project performance. Everything associated with AI is going to lean in the direction of visibility and transparency. So what you're doing is you're wanting to make sure we're not doing anything behind the scenes. People know what's going on with it. They know what type of data we're going to be using to train it. They know what type of data is going to be used to retrain it later on. So you create and implement portfolio dashboards. You establish a standardized reporting format. You consider using Kanban boards so projects and portfolios can clearly communicate without software. And so as you use these type of dashboards, people are able to tap in and know what's happening on projects all the time. And then show all the major metrics. Obviously, you could show KPIs, cost variance, schedule variance, return on investment, CPI, SPI. You could show any type of metric you need on some of these, but just because you can show it doesn't mean it necessarily brings a lot more value than maybe another metric that shows the exact same thing. But here's the thing, you want transparency. Upper management has to be transparent on this is the data that we can use. This is the data we can't use. You can't use proprietary data unless this thing's behind the firewall. You can't use something that's going to have customer names on it or have any real numbers on it. But that doesn't mean that AI might not be of value to you. The next month when we do this, you're going to be using a standard case that I'm going to write for you as your project that you're going to be testing in some of these other things. But the thing is that it doesn't have any proprietary information because it's going to be a generic case that you're going to work on. I want you to see the output of what we're going to do next month. But the point is that you can see if it gets behind your firewall, now you are protected. You can use a lot more proprietary stuff because you've got all of your security mechanisms in place. And so it can be something that's going to be really great. The other part would be inconsistent or poor governance structure. So decision-making roles are unclear. And so you want decisions that are being made today might be made by somebody else later on. So roles and responsibilities are clear in all areas. What decisions can I make as a team member? What can I make as a data scientist? What can I make as a data engineer? What can I make as an officer, an AI officer working in the organization? See, that might be a new role. And so you're having to educate people on what they do and how they make decisions. Escalation paths are maybe unclear. Well, the reason is because some of these people maybe aren't hired yet, maybe don't have that role yet. What the important piece of this transparency is clearly communicating decision points, stage gates, so everybody understands what's going on. But it's not just to install all of the technology, even though that's a piece of it. It's going to be how do we maintain it, which is going to involve the retraining to keep this data all updated. Scope creep in projects impacting the portfolio metrics. So expanding projects beyond original goals. So how do you fix something like this? So you enforce change control processes and documentation. You review all levels of change for the project program portfolio. You increase the project details in the project charter, which authorizes the project. You include what should not be part of this project. So what you're doing is you're communicating even more. This is what the project, and putting the constraints around it. This is not the project. And so you're making sure that everyone understands that this is not something that's going to be included in that project. And so if it's a vendor you're using, they know not to go in that area. If it's internal people, they know not to go in that area. Also, data inaccuracy, poor reporting quality. So when we talk about inconsistent reporting and poor quality, this data is what AI is going to run off of, your data. And so the better your data is, the better decisions it's going to make. But inconsistent reporting and limited project data is obviously going to be there for almost all of us. You didn't anticipate an AI was coming down the pipeline, so our data, which has been archived, maybe has been archived and not been as great. So how do you fix it? Creating standardized data for every project? You'll see that happening from this point forward. We know how to organize our data and standardize it so that AI is going to be able to read it without a lot of problems. Establishing data collection processes, automating the reporting metrics and tools, training project managers and reporting standards. All of this will go under review if it's not being reviewed already. And you'll start seeing people do better with their data because it makes sense to us. If AI is using that data to read and make recommendations back, then that's going to make a difference on what we've done. Many of us have run projects and archived those project documents never to be seen before, and wouldn't know how to research it, wouldn't know how to search for it if we were asked to, because of there wasn't really an idea that we were using them that much. But it will be a change. All that will change with AI. The other part would be inconsistent reporting and limited project data. How you fix it? Create the standardized data. Every project, establish data collection processes, automating the reporting metrics and tools, training project managers and reporting standards. All of that is going to be very supportive there. All right, so let me talk about something as we move into this last piece here. Future webinars. So next month, this is where we're going to be doing hands-on. So we want you to be signed up with a free either Gemini, Claude, Chat GPT, whatever. If you're already using one, then that's fine. You're already signed up for the free version. We'll be fine. So it's AI as your project leadership assistant. Quick drafts, rapid brainstorming, efficient content creation. We're going to do hands-on for this. And so if you've got somebody you think, or your team, you're wanting them, just jump on my website, sign them in so that everybody has that connection. And so we'll pack everybody out on here for this free webinar. And then we've got them all the way through the end of the year as we talk about some of these with in June, making it stick, July, inventory. And then, of course, August, we're talking about building resilience in your project. So we've got other topics that we'll be dealing with as well. The other thing that we want you to see is that we have free mastermind. If you've got people who are thinking about the PMP, we do a 5-day, it's about 30 minutes a day for 5 days, PMP mastermind group. And so these are people who are thinking about it. We talk about how to document their experience, and we do a couple of Zoom calls with everybody. And so it allows them to be able to start thinking about how to get all of their ducks in a row for the PMP. It doesn't cost them anything. And so it talks about, are they qualified to do it, answer any questions, and just puts it all into a 5-day packet of about 30 minutes a day for them to work through that. And we do a free drawing. One person from each mastermind group will be given a full scholarship to come to the PMP Bootcamp for free. And so we'll be giving one away in May, one away in September. And so we're excited about that as well. And then also we have our virtual PMP exam prep boot camps. We do those every other month. I teach these. Our next one's in April. And then this is the listing for the rest of the year. We'd love to have some of your people in each of these as well. well. And then, of course, not only that, but I do a lot of webinars on a lot of topics. Portfolio is not one of the topics that we typically talk about. But if you have additional questions or anything, don't hesitate to go to our website, email me, and contact me, and ask me some questions if you have. I'll be glad to answer some of these questions with you. So our time is almost up. Let me thank you so much for being part of this. I know I gave you a lot of material for this. I felt like I had to go through all of this to kind of give you that bundle of that work package of portfolio, and to be able to talk and do some justice to that topic. Those of you who are portfolio managers, God bless you. I know you have the headaches of trying to fund everything. So let me thank you so much for being part of our webinar this month. I hope it was beneficial to you. I hope you enjoyed it. And you'll get a link from Kim later this week for a replay on this as well. So God bless you guys. I hope you have a wonderful summer. And so God bless you. Thank you for being here this morning. Bye-bye, guys. See ya.